From Atlanta, Georgia, welcome to Fearfully and Wonderfully Me, a podcast for women on leadership and life skills with Rhea Story. Rhea shares powerful life and leadership principles, helping you maximize your potential and become the woman God created you to be.
Hey everyone, we are just 3 or 4 weeks away from the start of a new decade, winding down 2019 and getting ready for 2020. But you don't have to wait to get a jump start on your goals and your New Year's resolutions and what you want to accomplish next year. Every day we make hundreds or thousands of choices. Some of them seem very insignificant, little choices. But those choices cumulatively create our future and they help us achieve more in our life. We make our choices and then our choices make us. We can choose our thoughts, our mindset, our attitude, our values, and our actions. But we cannot outrun the consequences of those choices, either positive or negative. They're either serving us or they're fighting against what we want to accomplish every single day. But you don't have to wait to start your decade to get a jump start on that. And what I've found is one of the most powerful things in helping me accomplish my goals is a very intentional first few minutes of the day. I have a very intentional morning routine, and I've created a series of motivational planning journals that will help you incorporate this routine into your day and accomplish your goals and get a jump start. So head on over to rheastory.com/journals. You can learn about my motivational planning journals. There's 6 in the series, and each one has a little bit of a different theme. So you could choose a theme of joy and abundance and gratitude. You can choose a theme that's motivational, or you could choose a theme of productivity and very focused intention. So rheastory.com, you can /journals, you can learn about the different ones. They also make a great Christmas gift if you're looking for something for someone in your life that helped them get a jump start on their 2020. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Fearfully and Wonderfully Me, a podcast designed to help you discover and develop the leader you are destined to be. Today's episode, really talking about the foundation of change. This is a topic I think a lot about because, especially this time of year, I know that the holiday season is here and in full swing. It's the 1st of December, and Thanksgiving is just passed, but Christmas is coming, and all of the hustle and bustle and the parties and the get-togethers and all of the stuff associated with that. But right around the corner from that is going to be New Year's, and I know millions and millions of us like to take advantage of the momentum of the new year to create a New Year's resolution. There's all of us have something that we want to improve or change about our life, and so I know that the holiday season is here and everyone's busy and hurried, but a lot of us are also thinking about, well, what am I going to do differently next year? In fact, most of us throw away any opportunity to improve the next 4 weeks, right? We just say, well, I'll do this after Christmas. I'll do this after New Year's. I'll wait till January to, drink more water, exercise more, or quit smoking, whatever it is. And so we like to take advantage of the momentum of the New Year's. And when I used to teach group fitness classes, I always loved January because all of the classes in the gym would be full. Every bike would be taken, and every spot in the group fitness room would be taken. And it was always a lot of energy and a lot of enthusiasm, and people had a lot of hope. And over the first few weeks of January, it would be awesome, and just a lot of people encouraged to be physically healthier. But over the course of the few weeks of January, the numbers would start to dwindle. Sooner or later, a lot of those people just wouldn't have the discipline or the interest or the enthusiasm to keep coming back to exercise. And so sooner or later, those numbers would dwindle as the momentum of the New Year's wore off. And so, recently I was reading a book called The Power of Habit, Charles Duhigg, and I believe I read it right when it first came out several years ago, but I'm rereading it, and it was a really good, I'm really enjoying it so far. I'm probably about a third of the way into it. And what I think is really powerful in here is he talks about how we create habits in our lives. And I think that's important. When we talk about the foundation of change, most of the time what we want to change is a habit that we've created in our lives. Now, not always. Maybe you want to, change something in a major life change, like a career change or something like that. And this absolutely applies to that too. But I want to talk about habits just a minute, because there again, most of the time we want to change something that we've created as a habit. Because what are habits, right? Habits are decisions we've made at some point about automatic behavior in response to a stimulus. So for example, probably when you walk in the door from work in the afternoon, you have kind of a routine. Maybe you take your shoes off, maybe you set your purse down, or you set your car keys in a certain place. It's pretty much the things that you don't think about, right? Your mind's already on what's for dinner and what you're going to do with the evening, and you're not really intentionally thinking about where you set your car keys, right? That's just a habit. You probably have the same morning routine. You brush your teeth and then you get in the shower, and you don't really think about, well, should I do this first or should I do this first? Most of the time, it's just a habit. And habits can be very powerful things. If you have a habit of exercising every morning, that can be a great thing. But a lot of times we have habits that are destructive or that just don't serve us well. And so in the book, he talks about the thing about the habit cycle is there is always a cue, there is a routine, and then there's the reward. So there's a cue or a trigger that something tells us, oh, now we should do this behavior. The routine is the behavior, and the reward is how we feel or what we get because of the behavior. So, and that's all really wrapped around a craving for stimulation, right? There's a cue, there's a behavior, there's a reward. So it's a very definite cycle that we can see. So when we want to change our habits, we really have to think about, what are we going to do in response to the same cue? Because the cue or the trigger probably isn't going to go away, right? What we can change is the behavior or the routine that we do in response to that trigger. And I think that's where the foundation of change comes in, right? Number one, we have to be intentional about it. We have to think about it, whether it's a big life change or a habit about whether you exercise when you come home from work. We've got to think about intentionally changing something in our lives. And what I mean by that is we have to intentionally think about our response, right? So I've talked a lot before about Stephen Covey and the concept of being proactive, right? Being proactive means I, as a human being, my greatest freedom is my ability to choose my response, right? I am response able. Now, I know it's not easy to do, and I know we get it wrong a lot of times. I certainly get it wrong a lot of times. I find myself acting on the emotion and saying or doing something that I'm like, man, that wasn't really how I wanted to respond. But we are response able. So even though a lot of times we don't get it right, a lot of times we do get it right? We choose a good response and it serves us well. So if I am response able, suddenly he can, Stephen Covey talks about in the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, he says if we are response able, he slides those two words together and says we are responsible, right? We are responsible for our actions and words and our behaviors in response to a certain cue or stimulus. And that means that we are responsible for our habits or for the changes that we want to create in our life. So I wanted to give you something to think about as you go over the next few weeks, and maybe you're one of those people that want to change something in 2020. And, when we talk about the foundation of change, I think it really comes down to belief. We've got to have a sense of self-belief. We've got to believe that, number one, we are responsible or response-able, because if we don't believe that change is possible, we won't do anything about it, right? We have to believe. Self-belief means that I am response-able and I am responsible for the actions and behaviors that I choose. And we also have to believe that I can change something. And I've heard that called an internal locus of control, but really believing that I can do something to influence or improve the situation or the behavior that I choose, or the action or the attitude, right? Self-belief is a critical component, or maybe the first component of change and the foundation of change, because we've got to believe. And a lot of times we don't believe for ourselves, but we can borrow that belief from someone else, right? That's the power of getting together with a group, or building a community, or having someone mentor you and believe in you, right? Even if we don't believe for ourselves, we can borrow someone else's belief, because it helps us when we have that support. We have a supportive environment. So we've got to have belief, and if we can't get it for ourselves, we've got to borrow it for someone else. People have to believe that change is possible, or they've got to be able to borrow it. And I think that that's important. When I think back, I had a lady, I had a meeting or coffee meeting on Friday of this week, and we were sitting there and having coffee, and the lady asked me, she's like, what was the one thing that helped you leave home? What was the one thing that gave you hope that you, number one, could leave, a dad who was abusive, and I had been, I'd grown up in that environment. And so really, as weird as it sounds, it was my normal. And so it was so incredibly difficult to leave, because even as bad as it was, and as unhappy as I was in an abusive situation, my dad sexually abused me, he was trafficking me. But as bad as that was, it's a known situation. And so change is scary, right? Even though that was a terrible situation and I didn't have a lot of hope, it's a known situation, and change can be scary. And so she was asking me, she was like, what was the one thing that really, gave you the hope and the courage to be able to leave? And, I can think back, and I tried to leave several times. I ran away from home several times when I was 18 and going on 19. But Dad would always find me and bring me back. And, I can remember not having a lot of hope and thinking, I may never get out of this situation. And even if I did get out of the situation, I didn't have any resources to support myself. I didn't have a job. I didn't have any money. I didn't have a high school diploma. And so to leave that situation would mean going where, right? And doing what? Like, how would I even survive? And so as she and I were talking, and we're talking about it, I think it's really that to have hope that our situation or our habit or our behavior or whatever it is that we want to change, we've got to have that belief. But here's the thing. A lot of times we can borrow it, right? When I finally was able to leave, really, my now husband, Mac, had a lot of belief in me. In fact, when I finally did leave, and I finally was determined, I was absolutely not going back to that situation, I could borrow his belief. And I think that was huge for me, because number one, I had someone who believed in me and cared about me for me instead of what I could do for them. And that was huge. Maybe I had tried to leave several times, and maybe I didn't have the belief in myself at that point to say, if I try to leave again, this time I can be successful. This time I can make it stick and I can stay gone. But I had someone who believed in me. And I think that's critical. right? Belief is absolutely important, and it's the foundation of change. And sometimes we don't have that within ourselves, but look around you. Find someone who believes in you, and it can help you have that belief, can help you cultivate that belief within yourself, right? Maybe that means joining a gym and getting a supportive gym community if you want to exercise more. Maybe it means getting a personal trainer, because that personal trainer can believe in you. Maybe if you want to drink more water, you can get an accountability buddy, right? There's lots of ways that we can borrow someone else's belief. Find a mentor, right? If you want to write a book, learn from someone who's written a book. And I think it's important to say we need to get our belief from someone who's been able to achieve what we want to do, right? Don't go ask Facebook for the best way to lose weight or quit smoking or exercise more, right? You want to find your advice and your mentorship from someone who's successfully overcome the challenges that you're facing. Right? And if you don't know anybody in your circle or your community of friends or family, then read a book from someone who can, you have access to learn from the best minds and the wisdom of people all over the world who faced challenges and overcome them. So if nothing else, look around and find a book from someone who's faced what you have and learn from them. Right? But don't stop there. Keep learning, keep searching. And I think that's key. When we want to create more hope and more belief, we have to really search for it, because great things don't happen by accident. It always comes down to intentional. We can do just about anything that we set out to do, if it's physically possible. But we've got to answer two questions. Number one, do I believe I can do it? Can I act my way into change? And number two, are we willing to pay the cost, right? Because there always is going to be a cost. There's going to be an opportunity cost or a time cost or a financial cost, or a cost of giving something else up, right? And a lot of times with sacrifice, we won't let go of what's holding us back. Because with sacrifice, we always feel the loss first. We have to be willing to let go of something in order to reach forward and up to something else. And a lot of times we have to, we want change, we want things to be better, but we're not willing to make the sacrifice. So think about that over the next few weeks as you gather the momentum of January and the New Year's coming up. I just would encourage you to think about what habit or what situation do you want to change or improve? And number one, do you absolutely believe it? And if not, you've got to go find belief from someone or something else. And then number two, what are you willing to give up in order to achieve what you want? Because it's important to know what we are willing to let go of in order to gain something new. Until next time.
Start increasing your influence and maximizing your potential with Ria's audiobooks. Available at audible.com, amazon.com, and iBooks. Please visit riastory.com to learn about Ria's books, resources, speaking, and training programs. Thanks for listening.